Let's get something immediately out of the way. No matter what the haters say, no matter how loud the grifters are online, no matter how hard Marvel seems to trip all over themselves every single time Miles gets any sort of momentum, he is the most influential and popular legacy character of the 21st century. You can argue whether he's the best. That is subjective, but influence, popularity, cultural impact, that conversation is just not there, right? Two animated blockbuster films, Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, they didn't just succeed, they changed the animation industry. Studios are still chasing that art style, that high, that energy, the willingness to take risks, right? Miles didn't just star in them, he defined them. He is the face of that style. On top of all of that, he has his own standalone video game, a co-lead in one of the biggest PS5 titles of the year, and a design so iconic that I think it rivals Peter Parker in his red and blue suit. Granted, obviously, in terms of just nostalgia purposes, Peter's suit has to go higher, right? It's a part of my childhood, and it will always be there, but the fact that they created something so good on the first try needs to be complimented. All of the success was earned, and let's be real for 1 second. The RNG he pulled was ridiculous, because the spider that he got bitten by gave him invisibility, bioelectric blasts, energy constructs, venom swords, a Super Saiyan form. Like, dude, the exaggerated swagger is off the charts, but let's be a little bit serious for a second. Despite all of this, I haven't seen a character treated this weirdly, this inconsistently, this outright hostile by their own publisher since like mid-2000s Nightwing. If you know, you know. There was a time in like the mid-2000s into the early 2010s where DC absolutely despised Dick Grayson. Animated movies turned him into fodder. Every fight ended up with him clutching his arm. He might as well have been named Shoulder Man, like, I'm serious. Like, Dan DiDio, former editor-in-chief of DC Comics, was actively trying to kill him off. And I am not exaggerating. They hired top-tier writers, crafted massive universe-defining events, reintroduced crisis elements, brought back Superboy Prime, and the real goal behind all the scenes was to kill Dick Grayson. The only reason why he survived is because Connor Kent took the bullet instead, but the damage was done. Bloodhaven was nuked by Deathstroke using chemo, a radioactive villain. His entire supporting cast and villains were wiped out. His history was essentially erased. He had nothing to go off of. He was shipped off to New York with zero context, zero roots, and zero momentum. He had to build himself back up. A decade of stories gone in an instant, and it felt personal. That's the same energy Marvel has been giving to Miles Morales. Just quieter, messier, and I want to say passive-aggressive, but recently, Marvel has been in their bag in terms of showing all of us up front their hatred or just their misconstrued version or view of how Miles Morales should be portrayed. Miles has always had detractors, some bad faith, some ignorant, some outright racist. But we've all heard the same talking points. He's just Peter Parker all over again, but with darker skin. That's the only difference. He's not really Spider-Man. And yes, early on, some of that criticism wasn't entirely unfounded, but Bendis struggled to differentiate both of them at first. But here's the thing, Miles grew, right? Different personality, different upbringing, different fears, different relationships, and most importantly, different powers, right? That's what they've been hammering home, and honestly, I did wish they pulled back a bit on it, but they have done enough differences between the characters, especially in the Cody Ziegler run, which I do think is Miles' best run, even though it does get overhyped a bit, but I still enjoy it properly for the most part. Yet Marvel, they keep pouring gasoline on the discourse. Instead of letting Miles carve a clean lane, Marvel did the weirdest thing possible. They refused to name him properly. In comics, multiple versions of a character existing at once is normal, right? We've had alternate universes forever. Like, the first literal mainstream version of the multiverse crossover was the Flash of Two Worlds when we saw Jay Garrick and Barry Allen. But here's the difference. They weren't both just called the Flash in the same space. Jay became the Flash of Earth 2, Barry got the core mantle, right? That's how it usually works. Legacy characters get a modifier, a subtitle, or a new codename, not because they're lesser, but because, you know, clarity does matter. And Miles already had that, right? In the Ultimate Universe, after Peter Parker died, Miles wasn't one of the Spider-Men, he was the Spider-Man. On a multiversal level, he was the ultimate Spider-Man, a clean identity, a distinct legacy, no confusion. Then Secret Wars happened and Miles got folded into Earth 616, and Marvel throws all of that away. Instead of giving him a unique identifier now that he's, operating alongside Peter, Marvel doubled down and insisted that he's just Spider-Man 2, and this decision was made during the peak of Marvel's mid-2000 diversity marketing, and I felt that to be a good choice. It was during the third attempt at Bendis trying to make a good Miles Morales run, but in this arc, in like the 2016 to 18, around there, the book was only called Spider-Man, and I believe the best way to have like a separation between Peter and Miles is that Peter has the hyphen because he always says Spider-Man, get the name right, and have Miles just be Spider-Man without the hyphen. And I'm pretty sure there was a bit of an inflation of sales because a lot of readers didn't know that this was another Spider-Man book. They thought that it was Peter in a different suit, right? That's the problem. They weren't exactly clear, and I believe this actually did do more harm than good, even though it was unintentional. It didn't elevate Miles, it turned him into a debate because they reversed all of these creative decisions in terms of the naming brand of the character in his next run, calling him Miles Morales Spider-Man. But let's get to the biggest problem here, Spin. Let's talk about Spin. So fast forward to Radioactive Spider-Man, an alternate future storyline tied with the Age of Revelation X-Men event. Peter thinks he's alone until he's saved by Ghost Spider and Miles, except Miles isn't Spider-Man anymore. They call him Spin. Spin. What does that mean? Okay, that's not a code name, it's not a legacy, and it's not even intimidating. That's a name you give to a toddler-friendly cartoon character. Oh wait, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, a kid's show, is where this name debuted, and what is it supposed to mean? Is that supposed to be the way that he shoots his webs, he spins his webs? That's like calling Spider-Man Snicks, the literal onomatopoeia of Wolverine pulling out his claws. Like, that is how bad this is. And now it's in an official comic. Is this permanent? Probably not, but it shows us that this is an alternate future, and the fact that even Marvel decided to test this out tells you everything. They know the name sharing doesn't really work for Peter and Miles in this community, so now they just don't know how to fix it without admitting that they messed up by not being clear in the first place that they are both Spider-Man. They keep walking it back and forth, and I can't really blame a lot of fans for not wanting Miles to be the Spider-Man when Marvel doesn't even know what to do. Marvel's weird, kinda racist what-if problem. Now, what if, as we all know, is an alternate telling of some of our favorite superheroes, maybe making them into different characters. For Miles though, every single time he gets a what-if, it's defaulted into a weird storyline structure. Look at this. Why does Asgard look like this? Why is Odin wearing Timbs? Why is Thor Miles wearing Jordans? Why does he say by Odin's fade? Like, you can't help but laugh, bro. Why does this feel like a parody written by somebody who doesn't actually like the character? And the funny thing about it is that I'm pretty sure Cody Ziegler wrote this. The guy who wrote the best Miles run so far is attributing to Miles' downfall. It's coming from every single direction. It's not clever, it's not even culture, it's just uncomfortable. It feels like Miles and Marvel are trying to be hip while actively sabotaging his credibility. And this is where we gotta talk about something that low-key hurts Miles more than the haters ever could. Miles Morales is Marvel's favorite gimmick man. Now, before anyone starts tweaking, let me be clear, Miles getting new abilities is not the problem by itself. Power progression is normal. Heroes, they grow, they evolve, and they discover new layers of their potential. Some of my favorite legacy hero moments ever come from this exact same trope. Wally West discovering the Speed Force and casually breaking physics, Kyle Rayner mastering the emotional spectrum and becoming a White Lantern. Legacy characters surpassing their mentors is a peak comic book writing trait when done right. So when Miles start doing new stuff, I'm not immediately mad at it, right? Even the Venom swords, yeah, they're kinda goofy, I'm not gonna lie. I still don't know what electricity swords have to do with spiders, and his Venom Blast in the past has never been portrayed as straight up Thor lightning before, but whatever, I can live with it, you know, if that's going to be the story they're going to, and they commit to it, fine. I'm not here to be a hypocrite. The problem here is that Marvel never commits. With Miles, new powers and upgrades, they don't feel like organic progression, they feel like social media announcements because the stuff is designed to trend for a week, get power scalers arguing and boost pre-orders, only to disappear the second the arc is over. Think about it, Miles gets his own Iron Spider suit, then he becomes a vampire for a hot minute, then he gets a vibranium suit. Every single time. It's announced in advance, months in advance, big hype, big promo art, this changes Miles forever, and then gone. Never mentioned again, no lasting consequences, no long-term impact on the character or his world. The only thing that's stuck so far is the vibranium suit, and let me be very clear about this. I do not believe it's staying. I'm calling it now. Next run, the suit is gonna be gone, and if not, I will eat my words and fully concede. But until then, I'm standing on business. But that's what makes Miles feel like a gimmick. Not the powers themselves, it's the temporary nature of them. He's not evolving, it feels like he's being rotated through ideas like a testing lab. And while we're here, can we talk about how absolutely cursed the Ziggler run is when it comes to crossovers? Why am I getting hit with 90s Tim Drake levels of tie-ins? I'll be reading a Miles book, invested, finally in my groove, and then boom, event tie-in, flow destroyed, story momentum completely gone. And unlike the Robin book back in the day, where the quality usually stayed solid or even better than the main storyline, with Miles, the book straight up declines whenever that happens. It starts to feel like homework. You can't just read Miles Morales Spider-Man. You need a syllabus, and this is exactly why people say comics are hard to get into. This right here, because Miles' run becomes less about telling a story and more about servicing whatever event Marvel is publishing that month. He starts being a character and turns into a vehicle, something to spike engagement instead of something to build long-term. Marvel treats him like their favorite tool. And finally, we have the Shameik Moore problem, because the universe just loves piling on Miles, from like real-world nonsense to, of course, fictional drama. Shameik Moore, incredible voice actor, perfect casting in my opinion, but my guy, what are we doing? Publicly flirting with co-stars, creating fake dating narratives. The Haley Steinfeld stuff was already awkward enough, but Laura Harrier too, brother? Please, like seriously, why are you trying to hit on every single Spider-Man love interest and making it seem like you're together and you've been in a relationship? Now I'm pretty sure Haley is married and having a kid, someone check on him please. But none of this is Miles' fault, but it still bleeds into his perception. At the end of the day, Marvel, you just have to pick a lane, right? The truth is, Marvel just doesn't know what to do with him since he succeeded. They don't know how to work him out in comics. The movies, they figured him out. The games, they pretty much figured him out. They kind of did him dirty in that, by the way. Have you seen the Wally Westification of that Spider-Man Adidas suit? They ruined his drip for an entire portion of mandatory game storytelling, and you can't even... It's canon. An Adidas sponsorship Spider-Man is canon. His hair should not look like that and come out of the mask. He is not a white boy. It doesn't work that way. He looks like Booster Gold. He has sponsorships on his suit. Why would Spider-Man, the responsibility man, ever be like this? It was literally in the origin of Peter Parker. He was being a sellout so that he can get money, and he didn't care about anything else, and that is how we learn responsibility. Miles doing this is disrespectful to the Spider-Man name and Miles himself. Why are the comics also more confused than this though? Miles doesn't need to replace Peter if you're not going to go with it. Of course, Peter Parker is way too iconic for them to get rid of, and right now, Joe Kelly is kinda cooking with Spider-Man in space. He doesn't need to be the other Spider-Man as well though. He needs a name, a lane, and confidence from his own publisher, whether that means making his own title, whether that means keeping him as Spider-Man, which I believe they should. Spider-Man and the name of Miles Morales goes together like cookies and cream. It just works. Why are they so insistent on making it fail? Every single time Marvel hesitates, every time they hedge this, every time they make him smaller to avoid backlash, they're the ones holding him back. And that is the real tragedy. But yeah guys, what do you think about Miles Morales and the decisions that they've been making with the character? Honestly, looking at all of his popularity and how well they did his character in the Spider-Verse movies, he should be way further ahead than every single legacy character in Marvel. Hell, the fact that he has so much exposure, he should be doing so well in comics that he should be at the same tier as those high-level DC legacy characters like Wally West, like Dick Grayson. The crazy part about this is that Dick Grayson as Batman in his 2 years accomplished more as Miles Morales did in 15. And he did not have the same amount of push in outside media. You have kids out there where Miles might be their first Spider-Man. and from there, you can transition them into comics and make them lifelong fans, but they just don't know what to do. The confusion is what makes this so concerning. The confusion from all sides, publishers, audiences, and just fans in general, even the actors, makes this so frustrating. What would you guys do with Miles? What crazy story arc would you put him in to make him different from Peter? I know they've been doing a lot of things in the Ziegler run, but that is coming to an end, and the next person who gets put on the book is going to make or break the character, because having one success isn't enough. Having a legendary all-timer book is enough for a character to coast off. Miles, where he's at, needs 2 good, solid successions. If that's the case, I will say that he is in a good place. If not, then we're straight back to the drawing board. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comments down below. Remember to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you know when a new video goes live. And yeah, see you all later. Take care. Deuces. Peace.